So let's go back inside of here, inside of 3D Studio Max, and we're looking at the environment. We're looking at the sphere on here. I've talked to you guys about Material Editor. We've used it in some cases to do some funky stuff like the clown material for the ZBrush import. But let's talk about what we're actually looking at. In fact, in a minute, I'll probably open up one of those, that clown import setup. But let's come in here and we're going to go to M. If you go M, it's the shortcut for the Material Editor. You could also come over to here, which is the Material Editor option 2. Now, we haven't even been looking at this stuff here. I'm going to delete this for now. We haven't even been looking at this. We've been looking at it this way, just because it's the way I started with. It's super fast and easy to do what we were doing. But we're going to actually get into the Slate, because it's important that you understand how this stuff works, because a lot of Unity and Unreal and other programs use this Slate type of Material Editor. That's why it's in here. Okay, so if you didn't catch that, all you have to do, if you're in here and you're in the wrong one, like Compact, you can change it here to Slate, going to Mode and then the Slate. Or if you want, you can even come up here and hold it to where you want. So if I'm in this one, I can go to that one. If I click on this one, I can go to that one. But let's be in the Slate here. I'm going to move the sphere over here. Now, what a Material Editor is allowing us, kind of like what we're doing in Substance, we're taking those textures and we're putting it on inside of 3D Studio Max. The reason I don't teach you guys a lot of this stuff is because all this stuff inside of 3D Studio Max is generally isn't PBR, and it isn't what we're going to be using inside of the materials inside of the game engine we use. 90% of the games we use anymore use PBR. Now, there are some that still use this older version of texturing or setups, the texturing map types, and the PBR is the physically based rendering system that a lot of game engines, Unity and Unreal, use. And they have different texture types that they put on the object and material types. We are going to use those more often, and that's why as soon as we go into Substance, I really rarely ever worry about putting this material on this object. But again, you never know. This is also where we render from. If you're going to do a movie, if you're going to do cartoon or videos or whatever, and you're showing 3D animatics, you need to understand where the textures are inside of here and how to make them render. There's a whole other class on rendering inside of here, and in all honesty, unless you're going to be in someplace that does those renderings and does preview animations, it's at this point not the most important thing. But I'm going to show you at least how to get the materials on the object, so once you build it, you can put it in here and look at it. I wouldn't use this for rendering my portfolio usually, but there's ways to do it that you could. And this has changed the last 3 years. We used to do everything out of here, but now with Substance or Marmoset or something, it's definitely a different deal. So right away, when we look inside of here, you'll see that even though I have this selected, there's no texture showing for it. And that's okay, because I haven't assigned one. So how do you assign a texture? You can grab from this list right here, which I rarely ever use. And in fact, I usually turn it off. So let's just turn it off right now and get you used to thinking the other way. Again, on or off. These are just convenient things to do. They aren't actually the way they need to be used. So if I want to add a material to something, I have it selected, and then I come over here to Materials. And if I right-click inside of this menu, I get this Materials option. So the first thing I want to do is add a material. And if I go to General, I get a bunch of different types of materials. These are actually, funny enough, not the ones we want to use, because we're going to use Scanline, which is the rendering type that we have. And we're going to come down to Standard. And once we do that, Standard shows up here. I'll zoom in on it by scrolling in and out. Panning is the middle mouse button moving around. Okay. So, so we have ambient color, diffuse, spec color, gloss, self-illumination, opacity, filter, bump, reflection, refraction, displacement. Diffuse is now being replaced in PBR by albedo. Specular and specular color and gloss are all being replaced by metal and roughness. So if you see those inside of Substance, that's what they're talking about. Self-illumination is emission inside of Substance, inside of game engines. Opacity, still opacity. Filter color is not in by default. Depends on what you're trying to do. Bump map. This is where you actually put the normals inside of here. You have to change it to a special type of shader, but that's where it would be. Reflection actually refers to the roughness as well as the glossiness. And then refraction would be part of your opacity and doing some dances inside of there. Displacement, which would deform the mesh. Okay, so we just want to change the color of this. So what we could do is we could click on the word diffuse a couple times, or even just the whole material, and you'll see, just like in the collapsed version of the material editor, the compact, it comes up with this list right here. I'm going to name this up here, and we'll call this material 1. Okay. I am just going to roughly go over this stuff with you. If you by chance have something comes up while you're at school or in the future and you need more help with this, I've worked a lot with this material system. It changed though recently when we went to Arnold, which is the rendering system inside of here. That's the high def rendering. So I'd have to figure some stuff out. Again, I've played with it, but I haven't done a lot of work. But if you do in this, during the class, during the school, if you have a teacher or somebody wants you to work inside of here and expects you to know it and you're completely lost, ping me. I'll tell you how to do it. I'll get you caught up, and that'd be good to know, because then I can set up the class for the future. In general though, I think rendering inside of 3D Studio Max is not useful for the game industry. There's plenty of other better renderers and stuff like that. Plus, we don't render. We have the game engine real-time render. All right. Except for certain occasions and specialized occasions. Okay. So we'll come back to here. I'll say diffuse. This is diffuse. You'll see it says diffuse right there. I can just take this and change the color. Okay. To, let's say, green. Okay. But you'll see nothing happened. In fact, material one's a horrible name. We're going to call this first material, and I use double A there. Okay, so it's still, nothing's changed on this. Why is that? Well, we haven't put it on, and there's that there. We haven't put it on to the actual object yet. So how do we do that? Well, we cannot grab and drag it like we could with the compact editor. Basically, what we have to do is click this little button here that says assign to material to selection. So if I have that selected, I push this button, it assigns it to it. So it looks like everything's perfect, everything's good. If I wanted to, I can mess with some of the settings here. I could turn up the specular, and if I turn it up, it starts to get a higher a strength of reflection, or at least highlight. If I turn glossiness, it shows how tight that highlight is, and the higher the gloss, the more less smooth that highlight is, and the more plastic or something it looks. And there's other things we can change, like the colors, and we can change the softness and stuff, but generally that's great. So if we click this open right here, you'll also see it says maps. Let me do that again. Down here, the bottom drop down is maps. That's all these maps, which, by the way, line up exactly with all these maps. So go figure, that's what they're for. And you'll see you have places to put new extra maps and stuff. But let's say we want to put a texture on this object. Let's say we want to use a picture, for example. So to add a diffuse color, I could either click inside of here, like inside of the other material editor, but I really want you to work inside of here. So right click and say maps, because we're not working the whole material at this point, and say general. And then you'll see you get a bunch of options. And one of those options is bitmap. And a bitmap is any picture you're importing in. All these other ones are procedural mostly. So we want bitmap. Click on bitmap. And I will see if I can find a picture of something. Let's see if I have something silly on my desktop. Here. So I have this picture. And if you look at it, it's a picture of Kratos and his kid, and the girl from Horizon Zero Dawn teaching him how to shoot a bow, because that's what she did. And it's a happy family, yay. Nice. Somebody drew this, can't remember who. It's really cute. So if I want to make this work, I throw this texture by clicking on this dot. And now I'm going to drag it anywhere I want it to go, but what I'm looking for to drag it to is a place to attach it to. So the way SlateEditor works is it says this external element can be attached, and you can attach it to several places. That's the cool thing. I don't know if I can attach it. Yeah, I can attach it to even several places here. But that is the idea, is that you have these encapsulated control points, these textures or whatever they may be, and they can be used across the surfaces. And when you start getting into Substance Designer, this is hugely what they do, and they get really complicated, but it's really awesome once you get used to it.